Hi everyone, this is Allan McKay with a bonus episode introducing a good friend of mine, Anselm Seherr-Thoß, or Ansi, who's a effects artist working in New Orleans with his own studio. Anyway, let's jump in.
Welcome to the Allan McKay podcast. Allan is an Emmy Award-winning visual effects artist and mentor to many leading industry experts. Listen in as Allan talks with other industry leaders in film, video games, and visual effects about their experience, lessons, and methodology. Allan will teach you pivotal advice to fast-track your career, better your skills, and reach your ultimate dream job. Check out the latest episodes on allanmckay.com.
Okay, so this is a episode I did a little while ago now, but it was a really fun one. I've been meaning to put it online, and I figured this would be a great chance to kind of dive in and get some cool insight from a good friend of mine I've known since the beginning of his career when he first kind of started getting out there in Germany and eventually moved over here. He's done a lot of really cool stuff, especially with particle flow, things like that. He's worked for studios like Prime Focus and Pixomondo, Atomic Fiction, a lot of cool places doing a lot of really cool effects work. And it was just really fun to kind of catch up and shoot the shit about some of the projects he's done, as well as how he started his career and how he moved to the US and has been successfully working from his home office in New Orleans. And I think kind of living the dream a little bit, getting to work on fun projects and be able to do it from a really fun environment with the people that you care about, rather than necessarily having to do the 9-to-5 that a lot of people typically endure. Anyway, this is a really fun episode, and I thought I'd throw it in as a bonus. And Ansi and I will both be speaking in Vegas in December at Autodesk University, so if you're around, let's all grab a beer. For more episodes and to get updates on when the latest episodes will be coming out, visit my website, allanmckay.com. So ALLANMCKAY.com. Awesome. Finally, one last thing. The audio on this is a little shoddy. I'm just giving you a heads up, but bear with me. There's a lot of really great material here, so it's worth waiting it out. So enjoy. So, no worries, but I guess one way to begin is just like, how do you kind of get started in visual effects?
That's a kind of funny story. So, in my last year in college, in Hanover, in Germany, which is a 500,000 citizen, tiny ass town, where I studied getting regular arts degree, I just googled the VFX companies, so 3D companies in Hanover, and there were 3 coming up. 2 of them were douche, 1 were cool, and they asked, yeah, you can come for an interview, what do you actually know? And then I went there and figured out I didn't know Max, I know Photoshop, After Effects from my college background. And then they sent me back home because I didn't know anything. Then I just mailed them funny shit, like YouTube videos, whatever I found.
I've heard about this, I forgot all about that.
Every single day, like funny shit. At one point I sent the CEO / he's the soup also, it's like a 5 to 10 people shop. At one point I was sending him more emails than his wife, which does all the HR and financing of this company.
What's the name of this company? Because you work with Johanna Schlob. Solpix, yeah, you work with Johanna Schlob over there, right?
Right, yeah, he was an external modeler. So I never met him till way later when I was working in Frankfurt. But he was always an external, like a scene assembly guy.
That's right, mega talented guy. And yeah, so sorry, your email.
So yeah, I emailed them lots of funny shit until they finally said, dude, you can come over and we play, like, back then it was Unreal Tournament every Friday, and I drink a lot of beer. Like, it's an after-work guy hangout thing. And if you actually can play Unreal Tournament, then you're good for something, and we teach you the rest on the way. If you promise us to never send us funny shit anymore, and that's what I did.
So you actually harassed someone until they gave you a job.
Yeah, that's how I got in the industry. And back then there were 7, I was the 8th person, so then they could play 4-on-4 capture the flag. Like, it was an even out team. And they were like, you know what? This works. We teach you Max as you go. And like 2 weeks later, I worked on my first music video, just texturing buildings. I don't know what.
That's awesome. That's cool. I completely forgot. I hadn't heard about that years and years and years ago. It's funny because I'm actually doing a lot of career development stuff right now. Just like working on some stuff to do with like how to get into the industry and how to. And the one thing that completely contradicts everything I've kind of thought is like because I see so many job applications come in, a lot of people who apply for jobs, and the ones who are trying to find that little like extreme angle of being quirky, like one guy bought a studio, you can ask them about it, like he sent his reel in a enclosed Campbell soup tin jar, like a large Campbell soup jar, and like they actually would have to use a can opener to open the jar and get the reel out. Really cool idea. It stands out, and you know it's going to obviously have people interested in like, okay, who is this guy? But as Tim Miller, one of the owners of Boar Studio, said, every reel that stands out as being really special or really different sucks every time, and it's always the ones that are just like, I don't give a fuck. Here's my resume. Here's my reel. Tim's observation was always like, yeah, they always suck every time. But this is funny because there has been a lot of stories I've kind of heard over the years where people did something and were trying to be really quirky and do something, and it completely just backfires because it's like their work was really good, but they were really weird. But then you come along with some story about like
I had no reel, I had nothing to show. Like,
and it's awesome. Like
I saw Max the first day on the job.
That's fucking cool though. I mean, like, that's brilliant.
And so I stayed there for this internship was 6 months, and I stayed there for 1.5 years after. Like I rolled straight into a job there after the internship. And
I remember one of the projects you guys worked on because I think Schloby, who was one of those names back in the 90s, like everyone, like him and Willy Hammes. Again, every German artist seemed to be fucking ridiculously talented, especially at lighting.
Yeah, Schloby has been around like since probably DOS Max.
You know, you mention a lot of these names now, nobody seems to know who the hell they are. It's just like Neil Blevins, a lot of other names who are just like, no, these guys are like old school and they do amazing work. And I was good friends with Johan, and I remember him working with you guys. I remember like some music video with like palm trees or something.
Yeah, he always modeled in a ridiculous short amount of time, a ridiculous amount of stuff. Like, okay, we need a whole, Caribbean island decked out with a jungle, and everything has to like slightly move in the wind, whatever.
Yeah,
and if you can throw in some water simulation for the wave coming in, that'd be awesome. It's like, okay, a week later, whatever.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll get all that done. What do you want me to do this afternoon?
Right.
Okay, so like you started doing 3D, and were you starting like Max 1 or Max 2?
And my first Max, that was at the internship, was Max 7 actually.
Wow. Jesus. Okay, and so how long along the way did you kind of find a passion for particles and
that was not until 2 years later, so that one must have been like in the Max 8 order to 9 days. And that was actually your DVD that someone brought to work and was like, dude, you're doing all this, like you always got to do the afterburn crap, you should check out this guy's stuff.
Cool.
And so that was your first advanced visual effects DVD from TurboScript that made the round at this little 5 to 10 people show.
Yeah.
We come full circle.
Yeah. It was funny when I did that because like basically that was at the time I was like, okay, I'm done with Max, I'm going to move to Maya, so I'm going to dump everything I know onto a DVD and just like put it out there, and I'm going to step away. And I did that, and then, you know, after all, Park Floyd came out, and I was just like, you know what, like Max, I'm going back to Max, this is cool. And, it was just like along that way, that was the original idea behind it. And it's funny because the day I put it out, Alex Alvarez, the president of Gnomon, called me up and he's like, can you take it off the shelf and re-release it through us as like a 10 DVD set? And it's like this whole big thing, and it's just like, I'm good, it's out, I'm not gonna like be a dick and take it back and try and make a lot of money from it. I was glad, that was fun. Actually, a lot of people give me a lot of shit about that though, because I recorded that on a shitty mic, on a shitty computer back in Australia. I'd flown back from finishing up late, and I recorded the whole thing. And people were like, could I hear like a lawnmower in the background, like, on a few of those recordings? I'm like, probably, it's like really bad audio. The whole thing is just so ghetto, but it was one of the first...
like sirens or something.
But it was one of the first like training DVDs to kind of come out. And it was
for
like,
that field anyways.
Yeah, and but it was fun. It was like really fun to do that. Yeah, so that's cool. That's really awesome. And so you started getting into that, and like... Yeah,
then like a year after I got into particles, before that I did lots of shading and lighting, like because I knew texture painting from my background.
And you're German, so naturally you just fucking rock it.
I don't know that.
I've seen assembly, but yeah.
It's that Sopix was using V-Ray since it was in beta, I think. So they got like nightly builds from Vlado back then.
That's great.
They were little German favorites. A long time ago. But then I went from shading blind more to particles, and a year after that, Krakatoa came out and looked for like beta testers before the 1.0 was launched. And so I got onto that, and once like Krakatoa was out and you could all that stuff, that was it for me. Like I knew I was going that route then.
I was using the very first, like Krakatoa became Krakatoa later, and that was kind of interesting because it was initially built for this werewolf movie. It was really terrible. It was just a point renderer, and it would
like Stay or whatever it was called. Like before Superman.
It might have been before or after Stay. It was basically the exact same time. Yeah, it was. Maybe it was right after Stay because Dr. Richard Bailey was writing all this particle stuff for Stay, and I was plugging into this point renderer that he built. And this is based on, like, originally this was some dumb Mac script someone had written that kind of did the job a bit, and then Grant Adams started building something, and then Frantic's R&D team in Winnipeg started developing things a little more. So Mark Weed, Chris Batty, a few of the other guys there.
Darcy Harrelson, I think, was always on it.
The team's kind of like, it went in a weird direction after 06, I think, and like Chris Batty went back to school, Mark Weed went back to school.
And then there's the Exocortex or whatever, this splinter group that now does exercise stuff. I think that was one of the original developers of Krakatoa.
Well, and then there's ThinkBox and everything else as well. And it's just kind of interesting looking at the whole history, but like initially it was this external command line renderer, and you would point your particle cache to it and it would spit out. It was just additive particles, it wasn't volumetric, it wasn't anything. But it meant you could render out like, let's say 100,000 particles, and you would get like this thin wisp of smoke. And it would be based on like an additive amount of particles. So the areas that are more dense, like a more focal area of particles, would become more visible, whereas the ones that weren't would fade away. So you get these really defined lines, and that was like really kind of hard to do back then, just because like large particle counts were really inefficient, a lot of memory. So that was interesting, and then we started using it more and more on Superman Returns. So the initial part of it still wasn't volumetric. We were doing tests with like building up like ocean seabeds. You would drop an object in, and basically you have areas disperse and do all this stuff. And it was all using flood. So flood became like.
I think I saw those tests when I was in Winnipeg for.
It was pretty cool.
6 weeks, I think.
And that was the thing, is I was actually using betas of Fume, and we're using Idlewild, which was like this. Like a different style of movie. We had to do train smoke, and Chris Bond was also talking about how he talked to some guy at ILM who worked on Pearl Harbor, and how he'd use like all these little points, so to generate these very large volumetric smoke things. And he's like, yeah, so like why don't you use like lots and lots and lots and lots of particles, like P4. Forget about it.
Single threaded,
it wasn't gonna
32-bit back then.
It wasn't gonna happen, and also like you basically were saying use Geo. Yeah, it was very slow, but I mean the idea behind it was really solid. And like I just remember using Krakatoa at a meeting with Conrad Duke, who's one of the soups, and he's kind of joking around like because they had Flood, their own proprietary fluid software, and they're like, "Ooh, I'm not gonna be part of this because it's like instantly political as soon as like I introduce like a new fluid system in with what they already have," which wasn't the case at all. I think Conrad was just kind of like assuming it would go that direction.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I stepped away, started my studio, came back later, and then suddenly there's like volumetric features, and it started getting, it wasn't called Krakatoa yet, but it was suddenly becoming this really awesome beast of a thing. And I was like, yeah, and towards the end, like it just became amazing, strong piece of software,
And it's like actually I just joined the exact right time to do particles, because Fume was in beta, Krakatoa was in beta, Box 2 was in beta, Box 3 was already out at that time. There's like, alright, now I can finally do awesome stuff, and I don't have to like, not that I know how to write any of that, but like now you have tools off the shelf that can do amazing looks. Like FumeFX, even when the 1.0 that came out, did awesome stuff.
Fume's great.
And all that came out like right when I branched off to do particles, and then I had all these tools that at hand, and like it was just awesome fun. Like after work, I would just stay later and just occupy the farm, sim shit, do tests.
That's exactly what I was doing, when I was younger. Like that's really cool. Actually, I want to talk to you about the fact that you don't script much. It's actually like that's actually something I want to get onto. Sorry, I'm just going to like reminiscing lane. I was just thinking because you're talking about Fume and Box 2 and all that. Like, first build of Fume that came out, you didn't have any scale control or anything. It was just like such a basic primitive thing. But it was just like you could do fluids, but you had no turbulence or anything in there. It was like really simple. But Box 2, Oleg started. Like I worked with him on Box 1, and on Box 2 he started writing it. He's like, he's wanted to put in all the shit that particle flow never had. So scripting and rigid bodies and like all these other things. And then he started getting excited with Box 3, so suddenly he's just like, fuck Box 2, I'm like getting onto this. So suddenly it's like Box 3 came out before Box 2, which is just really fascinating to watch. And then he went back and finished up too.
Yeah, which I think it helped people a lot, because like it just opened up the functionality.
Yeah, the legs.
You now can cache particles, thumbs up. Like it's...
you could be full of memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just I think for the first 2 months I like didn't even touch sub operators now. I just used the cache, and then started figuring out super basic stuff. And I think I tried recreating other like simple TP setups or just recreating effects just using Box 3. Like how can I rewrite an operator with sub operators without knowing any scripting whatsoever? It's interesting because it was never the plugin. It took never off because it's very technical. Like it took me a good year to be comfortable, like, okay, now open the data view and just don't do caching and do sub-operator stuff, a little more complex. So, it was kind of intimidating with all these, like, I opened the flow from Charlie Carlet, and it's like, you scroll 4 screens to the side, it's like 200 sub-operators.
Sure, that's how it usually is though. I'm sure he'd be the same way if he opened up his own, it's like scripts and stuff, like you open up something a year later and you're like, I know I built this, but what the hell is this?
Yeah,
you know, because
nothing's tagged. There's some
you
dead ends.
You build things, you build things like evolutionary, like step by step, and it starts out small. By the end of it's so big, but you have it all memorized, and then take a step back and come back later. It's just like I don't know where to begin. Like let's just summarize, figure out what the hell's going on here. You know?
Yeah, and I'm like I started saving so much presets. Like my Box 3 library preset has one of everything like I've ever done. After a project, I try to like finesse it out. Because sometimes in the heat of the moment you have some dead end stuff that didn't work out. You just didn't delete it from the flow.
You keep it there because you haven't abandoned it completely yet.
So I'm all for like cleaning up, making a data preset. If it was cool, I can share it. I throw it online. Like, I don't care.
And that was something because like I guess the first time I really became familiar with you was like I never climb these days, and I wish I did, but we all were on forums and everyone's helping each other out and contributing, to the small community of people.
Yeah, I think the PFlow thread by now and at least in the 3 is max
the
up
Fume and the PFlow ones.
Fume PFlow is probably the most frequent thread there is. Not these days anymore, because quite frankly there hasn't been any PFlow tools in 3 years. There was like an update maybe, but nothing revolutionary new. I mean, now with Box 2 being in Max as M particles.
I was going to say, is Max officially, has everything been announced for the new Max features, or?
To me it's weird what they did with the extension. So now Box 2 is an extension to Max 2013. If you're a subscription, only then.
Well, then
which usually means in 2014 it's going to be all the extensions always in the next build from the get-go. But Box 3 is only for suite owners, which they want to push everyone into suites now and ramp up subscription costs as of next year, like up to, quote me wrong, about like 40-45%,
which is actually going back to the original pricing of 3D packages. Like go back 10-15 years, everything was between 4 to 7K for a package, but then they just dropped ridiculously down to compete.
Yeah, but so what's the benefit? I get a PFlow 2 Box 3 that hasn't been developed further than 4 years. So my benefit of getting a suite is I get a 4-year-old plugin. Is that what they are selling?
You should totally get an Autodesk graph.
So, and quite frankly, Box 2 and 3 talk so well to each other. It's like half the stuff I couldn't do if I wouldn't have Box 3. So Box 2 only to me is only that good because it's actually since it's based on physics, it's limited in what it can do compared to thinking particles, for example.
Have you messed with Bullet at all?
I have the new TP5. I just upgraded like a month ago, I think. I like it because it's faster. It's just I get a little more mesh penetration.
I was really blown away by the original shape collision solver, like the one that came out for TP4.
Yeah.
It's just like the most stable. Whoops. Not answering that. The most stable dynamic solver I've seen in a long time. Like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, you'll get RealFlow, you'll get all these ones that are like really just selling themselves like a dynamics plugin, and then this comes along, which is just the shape collision is like one feature of many, but like it holds up. Like you can literally just throw so much shit at it, and it'll just still stably solve it.
Yeah. And what I like about the bullet stuff is that it has like ropes and cloth features and all that. So it's more than just rigid bodies. It's soft bodies, cloth, like for metal bending and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's if you want to do formal surfaces like a car or something.
Yeah, so that's not fully implemented yet, I think. They're just figuring that out in Max. But that's gonna be good times when all that is.
I'm kind of excited about the whole bullet implementations because it's kind of like become a very standardized feature, like the same way Python is now on like every single package.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And it's open source, right? It's developed by Disney Interactive, is it? Who originally wrote Bullet, and then they just threw it out, and everybody can extend it by new features. I think DD's whole destruction pipeline is based on Bullet, but they wrote their own little plugin for it.
I've seen some really good bridges and extensions for it that have taken it a lot further, and it's just it's kind of cool. And the thing is that if everyone's rolling,
I feel Max is behind the curve in that matter. Like in the Houdini and Maya integration is far better than Max's, which is not Siga's fault at all. They just have to figure out the Max interconnectivity. Like the API is probably worth rewriting.
And for you, like, I guess it's an interesting thing. Is like I hadn't even thought of it, was that you do effects, you're TD, but not doing much scripting. Is that kind of like something you have looked into a bit, or is it more just kind of like you just never needed to because you have these robust tools that kind of like they do everything you need to?
Either that, or it worked doing it totally brute force with the tool I had, or on the other hand, there's like at Finite Films we had Bobo, which is the pipeline, and you need a script. It takes him a matter of hours, and he writes it for you. Having like been staff at Frantic that then later was Prime Focus, where Bobo was staff. You didn't need to script a single.
Insanely talented.
You didn't have to script a single line if Bobo was around, or like Laszlo Zabel too.
Yeah, Laszlo.
All those guys, and so that was just a robust pipeline. And you had a request that was fulfilled within a day, if not less.
At least Laszlo drinks.
Yeah, that's very true.
But that's an interesting thing. Is like Bobo. Whenever I go on with like a simple question, he'd come back with like more information than you'll ever need, and then you come the next day and he's written like this long email with more information. It's just he's just.
Which is now he's the like product specialist at ThinkBox. He solved so many problems for so many people remote because they're both the Bobo on the forums that writes everybody free scripts is no more because he has a job now. Yeah. Like it was all in the early days where everybody was just really helping each other out. It's probably still the case, but guys like Bobo are not like on the forums 24/7 anymore, writing everybody free stuff.
He's got his family.
And you gotta put food on the table at some point in time. So it's
you can't nerd out 24/7.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there is like such a wealth of great knowledge out there and talented people, and no, it's cool.
Yeah, and if I didn't have scripts questions, so like up to CG Talk, right there, or the Orbis forum to ping Alec directly.
Yeah, do you think it's beneficial? Like, do you still go? Are you active on forums still?
Yeah, and the other thing is it has shifted a lot to Twitter and Facebook, like the 3ds Max Facebook group.
I'm starting to have a feeling I don't know how to use Twitter, because I have a Twitter account and I use it for stuff, but I'm starting lately have people talk about
2/3 promotion, 1/3
it is. It's more like, okay, well, I've got like X amount of people where I can be like, okay, there's a new thing up, go check it out or whatever. But I never really, I think, have looked at it like how it actually.
Yeah, I think that's a reason why some CG Talk threads are less frequent these days, because you ping it out on Twitter, tag it like #3ds Max, within an hour you have 5 replies, and that's what I love about it. And you just gotta figure out how to make your question very, very compact, because you have only that many letters to put it out. But you can either split it up, or sometimes it's just, hey,
What the fuck?
Yeah, that, or like you just Dropbox the max file. You know, I have a problem set file, 100-letter question to it, and a shortened bit.ly link to the Dropbox file, and then somebody downloads it, helps you out, sends the file back. So, but yeah, just like the frequent news, like I think the news come out first on Twitter before it's even on CG Talk. Like if there's a new announcement, whatever, Naya is bought by Autodesk, all those news, there was a whole rave about it on Twitter long before the forums. Because if you write an article, multiple pages, you might work on it for a day or two, get more background info, talk to other people, make it a whole article thing, like, where Twitter is just bam, 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 bam.
CG Channel, CG Talk, all those things are Australian, but then like chief editor of CG Channel is in England.
Yeah,
and,
so,
you know, so there's like
can
different...
only, if the news are out on when he's sleeping, then there's nobody editing.
Yeah, so...
He probably has a Twitter account.
Probably does. Actually, he's in LA this week. I was going to hang out for beers. So, yeah, it's actually really interesting because like I said, I always used to use that as more of a way to like post stuff out. But like, the thing is, I suddenly feel a little older than I am, but you know, like more out of the blue. But that's the thing. For the longest time, I didn't even realize that like anything I post, there's always people replying to it. I'm like, I never even noticed that. I was just like, oh, okay, like. Yeah, there's people replying and I'm just being completely snob and not even noticing these things. So,
but it's just if you have so many threads going on, or like you have a certain credibility in the industry, people know you. I mean, it's too much. You can't answer every thread in person and help everybody out with a scene file from your DVD.
God,
After that, it was my DVDs. Like people posted on CG Talk or wherever, hey, I have the DVD, but this file I can't get further here, I'm stuck there and there. I can't answer every single email in person. It's too much.
If you look at my Facebook right now, there's a guy just posted like, can you send me the birth script from this file, from this DVD, from 10 years ago? And it's like, I don't have that DVD or that file anymore, so.
Exactly, it's just.
Yeah. But you put together some DVDs on box 2 and 3. Right,
and as far as I know for box 3, that's like the only DVD out there that ever covers it. But then again, there's this 20 people who know it really, really well, and none of them did a DVD, so somebody had to do, and it might not have been the...
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I'm sure it'd be the same way. I mean, like, box 3, you know, I use, but I don't use it heavily, and like, I know if I need to jump on a job that needs box 3, I'd buy your DVD, I'd be like, well, I need to learn it quick.
And it's got all the final max files on, and just make presets out of that, merge. We all did that with all the other DVDs.
I stopped doing that after a while, just because everyone just loaded up the final file and just started using that in production. It's just like, and then
there's no learning. Like
that's just it. Like if you're not able to take what you want and like build it up and experiment with it, if you're just literally loading it up and fucking with the values, then you know it's just there's no learning.
Right. But then they should have just pirated the DVD, which they might have done anyways. But you know, what I think is still selling is paper download. All my new stuff now. I started Volatile Training 2 months ago, which is paper download video tutorials and max files. Pretty much the same thing, just a DVD chopped up in each individual tutorial. And the prices are between $6 and $14, I think. And the psychological limit is $20. If it's under $20, people don't think a lot. They don't need to ask. When they're at a company, need to get it approved by higher ups. That's the psychological magic number is $20. If you're under $20, it's not worth pirating, because even if it's way under, like an $8 tutorial, nobody pirates an $8 tutorial because it's not worth the hassle.
If last week there was an article posted that I think it was like 92% of iPhone apps downloaded are 99% apps.
Right, yeah, because that's the one where you have no second thoughts. It was $1.
Yeah, it's $1. You know, it's less than $1. It's like the website Fiverr, .com, and it's just, you know, for $5 you can get someone to do something, and it's just like, well, fuck it. Like I still have money from a year ago because I put $50 on there, and like I'm sure I'll find something that to get people to do for $5. So just like stupid little gags or whatever. But yeah, it's like people are more impulsive with those kind of things.
Yeah.
They don't need to ask their wife, So,
exactly. It's not a matter of the household money. And and so far they haven't been pirated. And it's been 2 full months each and every of those tutorials is out, not a single one pirated.
That's great.
So it's
that's really cool.
It's alright. Yeah, I'm gonna constantly add up, and mine have. When I'm back.
Yeah.
From LA, have some time. I sit down.
I'm just about to get back into. Like, I've just been too busy to do anything for a while. Also, I just kind of had other life stuff going on that was a distraction. But I want to get back more into training again. So that's kind of my thing. But I think for me, it's more workshops because I like the interaction. I like to be able to like have a small amount of people.
Right, like a master class.
Yeah, but it's something that, over a month or two, you can tutor people and it's kind of like, tailor what you're doing is specifically what they want to learn. I kind of like that because I like the back and forth. So for me, it's kind of like something I'm going to really enjoy a lot as well. And DVDs are fun, but it's kind of like fire and forget. And so for me, I like what you're doing. Actually, that's a really great idea. And it's just so I'm looking at more workshop stuff, but.
Yeah, the thing with doing one tutorial at a time, sometimes
people can't take exactly what they want.
Yeah, and I get requests. You know what?
Yeah.
It would be cool if you can do that, and it might be just a 15-20 minute tutorial. Then it's $6.
I think it's a great idea.
20 minutes tutorial should not be more than $10, hands down, and you get the max file with it. And so you can react to requests better. If it's a whole DVD like with Turbo Squid, you gotta send them all. They check it. It's physically pressed on a medium. There's no direct download with Turbo Squid.
There's so many times I've like put it together, and then I'm like another month goes by, and I'm like, guys, like I want it out.
And there's just like with some software at that pace, there's a new version out by the time your DVD is out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know personally, like I hate that you don't get a max physical DVD anymore. Like when I spend $500 a year, it gives me the idea I spent the money on something.
And now you get like a little thumb
direct
drive.
down. Yeah. Right.
You get
you get the USB stick with the suite on.
We just bought the suite, and it's just like this little tiny thumb drive. And like Connor Meekin, one of the studio owners I'm working with right now, he just gets it, and he's like, "This is what I paid for." Is it this little tiny?
Yeah, we're like up to max 8, I guess, or 9. You got this whole book, like
you get a
massive box.
Yeah, like Softimage and like a lot of those, like you would get. It would literally be like you felt like you paid.
That's what I feel. They say, like, make the USB stick heavy, please. Titanium, whatever.
That's right. You attach to a kettlebell. And you can
right.
But yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, obviously, waste of trees, waste of print if you can just do it electronically, and also electronically you can search and do all that shit. But you still
but they charge you another $20 if you want the physical copy. Like, really, people?
Yeah.
You paid $3,000 or $2,500 wherever you buy it. In Europe, Max is more expensive than here for no reason. It's not the currency exchange. And you pay $500 a year then annually for a subscription, and have to pay another $20 to get a physical copy of one stupid disc. Like, come on, guys! For $500, pitch in a DVD. What does it cost?
Should set a little rant website for it. That's cool. And so, with your career, like. What are some of the bigger projects you've worked on? Like Avatar, obviously, is a big one.
Yeah, it's at Frantic we did first. Yeah, that's where I did most of the things. Just because I was staff there for 2 years, 2.5, whatever. So I had some time to roll it into projects from the beginning. Usually now, with being Commando, having my own thing going on, I'm either working entirely remote or I just jump on the project for the last 8 weeks of it. And there, with the big stuff, you have time to develop stuff, do it from day one. So there I worked on Dragon Ball Evolution, a movie to forget very quickly.
I could also work on that in Vancouver, and I looked at the edit, I was just like, no, I'm good.
Yes.
That's
then again, you're staff, there's not much to pick.
Yeah, well, I wasn't always working at a different place, so like, they wanted me to work nights, and I just imagined how, because I know Frantic, and I know, well, back when it was Frantic, and I just knew I'd be getting calls during the day at my other job where it's like, we need you in a meeting. Because when Chris Harvey and I ran Frantic Australia, we'd be called to meetings at 4 in the morning, and we'd have to be there at 4 in the morning because Winnipeg and LA were in sync. Yeah. So suddenly we'd be coming in at 3 or 4 in the morning, and that was our game, was like, who'd get in earlier? So it's just, that's kind of like how it always worked. I knew that, that'd be a nightmare position to walk into.
Yeah,
Plus
but
the
then,
film did amazing.
Yeah. Then one of the fun projects we worked on definitely was
G.I. Joe.
18.
Oh,
No, not G.I. Joe was hell. 18 was a very fun one, just because I was always a fan of the 80s show, and then they made a remake movie, and one of the few 80s remakes that doesn't suck, honestly. Like, I liked the movie because we saw rough edits of it. I liked it just for the movie, it's a cool action, it's a fun action movie.
18 was like, what did you do on that?
I helped out on explosions. There's a helicopter chase, and
I remember that,
the debris stuff.
Cool.
And what else did we do there? Some incognito helping out on Ridley Scott's Robin Hood, which was like we saved the day in 2 weeks. Where I think it was Prime Focus London had like 3 months, and then deadline approached, and we had to do it in LA in 2 weeks.
And what was that? It was assuming V's or?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And it's kind of a good feeling when you kind of jump on and put out some fires and.
Yeah. Plus, it's like it was only 2 weeks. It's not like you noodle a shot for 3 months until you don't see the errors yourself anymore.
Well, that Superman Returns opening sequence we did that in 3 weeks, which is ridiculous. Like I remember it was like gonna be released the week after, and it's just like that's when you know you've got 3 weeks and there's no pushing the deadline because like June 26th or whatever when it came out, I was like that's
you gotta go to print.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah, and what were some of the other ones you enjoyed working on?
That was I did stuff for the 3D conversion of Clash of the Titans, which was entirely converted in 8 weeks. The whole over 5,000 shots.
What the hell are you doing with 3D conversion?
They, like for some sequences, like when the 2 giant scorpions are hammering through all these pillars or whatever, the old temple, they couldn't post-convert all the little debris. So we got the comp from, I think NPC worked on the 2D version of the shots. And we got the comp, took out some of the hero debris passes, and we just put them in like super basic into camera. You gotta get this 3D gag across all the time. And so we just got the comps without those, and we just threw in hero debris. They were either completely hand animated or just simple P-flow, just into camera. And because they just kick up dirt into camera, it's nothing you have to dramatically prefetch or request original geometry. It's just some spheres. So stuff like that they just can't post-convert by hand. Like you can't roto debris, hence that. And I think that some of the stuff too for the Harry Potter they converted, but I was already on the way out. And then I did some previews for Sucker Punch.
Well, going back to, here's a good point. G.I. Joe, why didn't you like working on that?
It extended and extended and extended. And
Chris Boyle, he has the VFX suit. Yeah, or whatever, but Chris Boyd.
Chris Boyd, yeah, that's
Sorry,
it.
yeah.
And it just extended and extended. Was churn out like redone, new look.
You're doing some explosions, whatever stuff like that.
I worked mainly on the airplane being eaten up by nanomites.
Right.
And
that was
throughout the production, the look of the airplane changed. Like we were 2 months into the end of the movie, like the client changed the plane, like physical items of it too. So we had to scrub everything we did and redo it on the new plane, and that multiple times. And
I like that because like I was witnessing a lot of the production of that without being directly involved, just having to go drink with everyone, having everyone just be like fuck.
Tear their beer.
Yeah, actually one good thing was like they wanted being extremely reflective and shiny, and the whole point of like military planes is that they research millions and millions and millions of dollars, like hundreds of millions of dollars into finding and creating this paint that isn't reflective and doesn't, stand out. And suddenly they're like, no, we want it to be more metallic, and it's just funny. Like every step of the way, it seemed like they were just fighting what it should look like.
Yeah, I wonder if they get heat from the is it Mattel who does G.I. Joe, the action figure? I wonder if it had to look more like the cartoon or whatever. Maybe they got heat from their client, which then is Mattel or whoever does G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe had a funny history of like where it was one of the rare only merchandise which spawned a comic. Usually it's the other way around, where the comic would spawn or was merchandise. That's how a lot of revenue from movies is actually made through when a movie's made, they've already put in place all these deals for toys and everything else.
The aftermarket is where they make a chunk of money.
And this is actually the other way around, where the toys were actually what spawned a comic and cartoon and eventually a movie. And yeah, it was kind of insane to kind of watch. Not to watch it because I was a fucking kid and too busy playing with them, but it's kind of interesting observing that whole aspect of it. And I really wanted to work with G.I. Joe at the time because to me, I was like, this boyhood thing. I'm like, I love to work on that, and then I started seeing work in progress cuts of it. I was just like, oh, this isn't G.I. Joe. This is a bunch of dudes running around in metallic suits and cracking jokes.
And the Return of the Mummy director, so it has very comedic elements.
Steven Sommers. Yeah. He's good with VFX and with the budget, but I don't know. Yes. It was what it was. It wasn't a great film, but
Yeah, but this sequence was in the end it looked amazing, but the way there was very, very painful.
How did you guys go about doing the Dynamite stuff? I mean, I know a bit about it, but I was pretty blown away by the process you guys went through to.
Yeah, so the main pipeline was developed by Laszlo, and I think to some part Bobo too, but mostly Laszlo doing a combination of fume effects and box 3, and in the end the pipeline was so sophisticated that you just had some point helpers where you want the swarms to go, to like attractors, and you would just hand animate point helpers on the surface, and they would the pattern would crawl that way. And but the thing was that the airplane was actually always flying, like Mach 6 or whatever, 8, ridiculously fast. And they still wanted this very softly windy, so you can actually see them eating. With the actual motion blur of a fighter jet, it would be like one green streak of things. And so that was challenging to tame all those sims. And a lot of it was actually done on a stationary plane.
And offset the transforms. It would need to be. But what about for me, it was more blown away by the mesh gear deterioration. That's kind of what I like the whole effect was great. Just I like the active fragmenting, the way it kind of ate up all the mesh, all that kind of stuff. Was another thing that kind of caught my eye. At least watching some of the SIGGRAPH stuff the demos that they put together as well.
Yeah, I think initially it was there was thinking particles involved too for the fracturing. But I think in the end that was tossed. Correct me if I'm wrong, or whoever's. No, the initial eating was thinking particles too for the disintegration, like bigger chunks falling off and actually getting eroded away. But on the plane, at least, that was tossed just because we didn't have time anymore. We were running out of time because we got new airplanes every other day. And if you have thinking particles, fume effects, box 3, Krakatoa, it's becoming a sophisticated pipeline. You can't just switch out the plane and hit sim again.
No.
And so it was lots of maps, and then just simple particle systems of stuff spewing away. And
what about Avatar? You're working on the hologram stuff for that?
Yeah. And we made massive use of pure key volumes for that, like just level set particles. The thing was that we got the geometry from the client, which was used for previs, and we did the shot light with the previs, and then they wanted to the higher creator, which we never got from the client because of NDA stuff. So we had to partially remodel the whole damn home tree because they just wouldn't give out the actual geo.
Is this web?
I believe it's web, And just their policies, nothing leaves the house, period. Whoever, even if Jim says give it to them, they're enough. And so we got the previous home tree to do the final hologram representation of it. So that thing was pretty much redone in-house. And then, even on the higher-res trees, they were saying that all the leaves, it's just cards, facing. It's all nothing we could use to create level sets from. And so it's actually a bunch of box 1 stuff to get all the leaf branches on it, spawning branch particles, and they can spawn leaf twigs on them. Because in the end, it's just a dot mush. You don't see single actual leaves. It's way too. I mean, the table is 3 meters or 5 across. The tree is not that detailed on it, and they only zoom in on the root work. And so we remodeled the tree to a large extent, and that's all level sets. And the branches on the and shrub on the ground, like the smaller trees, are actually view epoxies that are illuminated with like just spotlights that have a dot matrix and it's projected. Same with when it interacts with the jade guy. It's just spotlights from where the lasers are in the table that are shining a shadow map on it, like a light gag.
Right. That's cool.
And the interaction on his actually, when he's illuminated, it's all box 3, checking if it's inside a rotor Jiva hand.
Right, yeah, just like a rotated hand going through it.
Yeah,
That's
and then
cool.
they would just take what's inside his arm and blow it out a little more. So.
And when you left Frantic, or Prime Focus, I guess, is that when you started your studio?
Yeah, and I left because they wanted, that was when the LA office was largely restructured and none of the people, or barely any, are still there. I think Chris Conti is back there now, running the office.
Yeah, I forgot Chris went there. I worked with him.
They wanted to push everybody to Vancouver, and they weren't quite nice about the people that were in the US on a visa. I want to backtalk the company, but they were kind of like, we own your ass, and you're going to Vancouver now. Do you want to go there for a visit? Like, we pay you a weekend flight, check it out how it is, but like you're starting next month, kind of deal. And after that meeting, that everybody on a visa had like a 4 or 6 hour meeting with the deciders, some of them. After that meeting, I called my visa attorney, and 2 weeks later, I gave my 48 hours.
I remember that. I'm going through.
I gave it on a Monday, and I left Wednesday. Once I had all my ducks in a row to get that approved, because you don't want to kill your one visa without having the other. But all that process, I mean, hands down, that was the kick-ass visa attorney. Got it all together in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
My paperwork.
I just got an email from today actually, because I'm kind of going through I'm renewing all that shit, so.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Which, yeah, I have to in 7 months too. But you're still with Amanda Gillespie, right? Same, yeah. Amanda Gillespie, guys. If you're not from the US, this is the
I got an email directly from her today. I was just like, oh, you actually email your clients?
Yeah, I always get it, because I only have her email. All her attorney helpers, there's a churn and turn. Like, once a year later, this helper dude is probably not there anymore.
Jonathan Farmer, I emailed him, and they're like, yeah, he's not here anymore.
Yeah, same with the guy who handled the interaction with my case, so she's then doing it in person. Like, I always CC her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure, it's a good attorney. Go with it.
Yeah, actually, I recommend her a lot. Alright, so, actually, yeah, you met that German girl at the pub the other day. I put her in contact with Amanda Gillespie. So,
nice.
Yeah, so...
You should negotiate like a finder's fee or something.
The amount of people I put through there, it's kind of funny. Yeah, so that's really cool, actually. So, you started your studio, though, and this is something that's kind of interesting to talk about. What was it like when you first started your studio? And
the first thing I did is like rewarm all the contacts that I already had from Germany still, or Europe. I freelanced all over the place before I came to the US. Yeah, and I still to the very day I get a good third of all the projects I do are still for German or European companies, like from London or Italy, Greece, and Germany, like just the companies where I physically freelance at when I'm still in Germany.
That's great.
And they still bring me up, because like if they need fume stuff, they just have me in their portfolio somewhere. Just still ring me up.
I was talking to Paul Holmes about that, about keeping a good relationship with everyone you work with, not burning your bridges, because you want to keep working with those people, you know.
Yeah, and so far it's at least once a year I work with the companies I work with frequently in Germany. It's like once a year they ring me up. It's like hard work.
That's great.
And so that's still a good third of my work is coming from before the US days. And then just through the internet, like just being out there helping out, people get to notice you. Like have a LinkedIn account, be on Twitter, do Facebook. Like it's great for free promo. It's just.
Do you find LinkedIn's really helpful for what you do?
Yeah, for the and I'm not even like a pro paying member. But I haven't put together a resume probably since I joined LinkedIn, because you can literally like click on the profile and save as PDF. Like if people need to download a resume to put it in front of an HR person, if you have your LinkedIn in order, it's very important to keep it up to date. Obviously, like put everything on there that's worth mentioning, and then people can just download the PDF right straight from the website or email the link to the HR person.
That's right.
And so that's everything you ever need to know about my career or anybody's career, yours, whoever on there. It's just on there if you put it. And then it's one click away for HR personnel, so that's great.
Yeah, it's public. I mean, everyone can see that. And,
and I think LinkedIn ranks pretty high on Google searches too.
Chris Harvey was saying something actually that rang kind of true, is that like, he was saying about IMDb, but this applies to LinkedIn as well, but IMDb is like the new resume for, for applying for jobs, because I mean, in a way it's official, like if you work on something, it goes on there, like every movie you work on, so you build a big list of all that stuff. And
right, because nobody needs to know where you went to high school, that's all fluff for what we do.
Yeah,
but what you did before VFX, who cares?
Exactly.
You were in the military, you were still in school, you learned it when you're still living at your mom and dad or whatever. Who cares? If you're good and your resume is good, like your IMDb is ranked up.
Yeah. And so people look that up, and like Mitch Gates, for instance, he was hitting me up because he was looking at this one artist he wanted to get, and he's able to look at all these credits, and he was looking at like, okay, for instance, in this case it's actually negative. This guy had all these credits on movies, but uncredited next to every single one, and he's just like, do you know who this guy is? And I'm like, I never heard of him.
They never let me put uncredited on there. I tried that 2 times, I think. And they said, yeah, we couldn't find you in the credits, we're not putting you on IMDb.
It's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, yeah, like, I guess if you have a good history of like stuff, then maybe it's, like, I don't know, I've never had any issues, but then everyone else I know has major issues, so it's, I don't know.
So in that way, my LinkedIn is more complete than my IMDb because they didn't let me put uncredited work on it.
Well, I mean, yeah, just keeping those 2 up to date definitely can help a lot.
Yeah. But then again, usually, if it's the uncredited movie you worked on, you were kind of jumping on it, helping out 911, and didn't like.
Yeah. Usually, yeah.
It's a smaller project for you because you jumped on it, you helped out.
Yeah, you weren't there from the beginning or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you go some places that are kind of funny where it's more political, like they'll credit people who stick around, like they'll kind of use it as leverage, like if you stay here, then we'll...
Yeah. Doesn't Pixomondo do that? Because there's so many people working on it and always do get so many slots.
They're,
whatever, 20 slots for credit.
Yeah, they're kind of funny. Digital Dimension was like that too. I don't know, I mean, you work in something, you bust your balls, you expect to get some kind of recognition for it.
Right.
I think. But, no, that's kind of interesting. I mean, so how do you find it being different from running a studio, from being on site and being an artist to now running a shop?
You have to be a lot more in communication with everybody, like in email, in Skype, like video conferencing, and like CineSync, and it's a lot more talking just because you can't just physically be there and somebody points his finger on, no, put this more left or right, whatever. And but so far it worked out pretty good. Like if you have CineSync and there's free tools that do that, and Skype can now video conferences multiple people. If you have a steady internet connection, to me that works so far.
Yeah.
Especially if it's people I've met in real life before, either at trade shows or from way back when. We have met in person. They know me. Yeah, at this personal level, on top of just the face on Skype. That works pretty good. And then I'm always on top of like sending previews back and forth. Like, since you can't show it directly, you got to be very frequent. Like don't let a day pass without showing something like progress. So they are in the loop of what you do. Yeah,
and that way if you go in the wrong direction, you can stop it early.
Exactly.
Opposed to like a week into it, be like, we actually meant.
Yeah, and then, but sometimes I'm even faster from them because there's zero distraction. Like I live in an area where there's like, you hear birds and that's it. And I have like 4 workstations now, versus before I had like 1, at a studio, and maybe 1 sim box you could sim on the farm.
Right.
The only advantage then was rendering because you had the farm, but just for working, you have, and sims take hours sometimes. If you have 4 workstations, you have a KVM switch, I can start 4 shots at a time just because sims take their time.
I can sit with multiple remote desktops open and just pop up one, do some work.
Exactly. And so certain things actually got faster doing it remotely.
Yeah,
because there's no distraction. And I have my own pipeline, like everything works exactly how I need it. It's my Macs, no corporate bullshit. Oh, you can't install the new software version because it had to be approved by IT. Whatever. If I need it, I just install it. I buy it. If it's a plugin I need, just buy it. And so that way, it's actually I'm working more efficient. I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You build a pipeline that works, and it works the way that you need it to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I had Catastrophic, it was exactly the same way. Where initially it was just me freelancing, and by then I started freelancing multiple jobs at the time. And eventually you start getting those big jobs you start bidding on, and suddenly it's like, okay, I should gonna start hiring teams to do this shit. You know, some things after a while you're not doing 3D anymore. You're not literally just there.
Yeah, that's what when I subcontract freelancers. That's like you gotta find the time to find your own your other shots that you're doing, and especially when they're all over the place, like in Eastern Europe, because they're pricely competitive.
What's your opinion of like Louisiana's film industry down there?
I mean, it's all driven by subsidies. Let's face it, and they can be gone. It's election year, right? This year. But that's why I don't put all my eggs in one basket. I enjoy my time. I enjoy the ride, you know. But if it's gone, I'm still really diversified. I don't want to only work on Louisiana movies. Because if that's gone, then that was the horse you bet on. It's just.
But no, it
not
sounds
a
like you're
clever idea.
diversified.
But just it's
European market.
I could probably work entirely on Louisiana movies, but it's not what I want to do because if the tax incentives are gone, I mean, look what happened in Albuquerque in New Mexico. The day that was cut, Sony closed the same week and let 200 people go.
Yeah.
So it's all there for the free money.
Everyone who went to Sony there were all like the ones who actually had families. They want to move there because it's cheaper living, and so it wasn't like a big freelance market or anything, or anywhere else you could really go.
Yeah, so they migrate people, and then they cut the tax incentives. They close the same week, and that's going to happen the exact same in Louisiana. They're all saying no, we're staying, and it's all brick and tar here. But I believe it when I see it.
What about now? You're at Blur Studio. You're helping out on a project at the moment, and I know you've been there a few weeks and you've helped them out before. Like, what's your opinion of you enjoy it there?
Yeah, it's Blur is one of the reasons I started in VFX. So to me, that's a full circle thing. Like, I personally wanted to work at Blur at least once in my life because they're one of the reasons I saw their cinematics. Like, even before I started Particles, just like playing with V-Ray when I was at the internship, I was like, holy fuck. And now I'm there, finally. I visited the place first in 2007, like on one of their Beer Friday, Family Friday events.
It's not really a Family Friday, it's Beer Friday.
I threw up in the parking lot, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I think.
The place is ridiculous. I wouldn't say what goes on.
And what happens at Blur stays at Blur, if you're not in the interview apparently. It's a great place. It's so much talent. The deadlines from what they put out.
The way they did it is like 0.25 of a day. Like they'll be like, okay, that's half a day. It's 0.75 of a day.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
how
like
I
places.
And I mean, the infrastructure is just insane. Everything's these days with V-Ray, everything's rendered in camera, depth of field, motion blur. They're looking that good these days because everything's in camera. Like the lens distortion, all that is actually V-Ray physical cam.
It's funny that they.
It's
So I was gonna say it's funny that they initially started out in Scanline and then they moved to Brazil for the longest time, and it's just Brazil is a great renderer, but it's slow. And
especially when they uncoupled it from the Scanliner features, right? The hybrid features.
And then some of the shows, like Tim Jones when he was there, he basically started using V-Ray in a few shows and it was testing really well, and they were like really blown away. But because Mental Ray had the fast skin shader, they all migrated over to Mental Ray.
Yeah.
And Mental Ray, again, powerful renderer, but
I still like the look of Mental Ray subtotal scatter, but it can't render afterburn and stuff like that. You know, the volumetrics.
Afterburn is just they need to, like, basically Mental Ray has its own shader language, so everything needs to be rewritten for it. And I spoke to Kresimir, I was like, you need to do this because Cebus were doing it, so Pyroclaster suddenly was supported for it. But Kresimir was like, I'm not going to rewrite my entire code.
Yeah, I think Afterburn is end of life, right? Like, development-wise.
It's funny because like, when I was working with Flight, I was working with Mike Janoff, who's another effects guy. He's like VFX Super Priest, a few other shows, and at least for Spy, not for the movie. Jay Bob was the VFX suit for that. But it's funny is we're both doing effects, and like these days I rarely get to actually work with other effects people. So when I do, I get excited, and it's funny is we both end up using Afterburn still for like some things, like pretty rarely.
I use it super a lot for clouds and shit. Just the Octane shader for further away clouds. It's like 20 seconds, 2K image. Just for cloud patches, they don't have to interact with anything. Super low settings, bam, all. Like just on a side commercial where a beer bottle was flying through the sky and you follow it like darting down. It's like a satellite.
Was it Coors Light or something? I think I saw that.
Yeah, the Coors Light, the NBA playoffs commercials. It was 2 commercials, and the clouds are all Afterburn, and it's just 2K with overscan for all the like shaking and rattle. 20 seconds frame, bam, bam, bam.
That's it.
Looked awesome.
That's how I first got in contact with Kresimir, who wrote Afterburn, Fume Effects and everything. Was in '99, I wrote a review of Afterburn. I just wrote one for the hell of it. And
was that for the 3D Louvre or something?
Yeah, I wrote a lot of stuff, and he's hosted all my crap up there, like a gallery or whatever. And like Brandon Davis and me, a lot of other people were up there. And I wrote a review of Afterburn. Just did it, and everything I wrote really positive stuff. The only thing was, I'm like, you know what, the Octane shader, like, it's kind of pointless. It's not self-shadow. It's not really doesn't self-shadow very well. Blah blah blah. Like most of what you can do, you just do with sprites. And Kresimir just wrote me an email. He's like, really awesome review. Just one gripe I have is just like, sprites are shit, and Octane is like 1,000 times faster, and like it was right.
The truth is, Octane shader is a 2.5D approach. It's like a reprojection thing internally.
It's an internal splice of like a volume, so it's like a one remarch splice.
Exactly. So it's technically sprites.
But it's CPU based rather than memory based, and so he was saying that it's because I was like, look, there isn't that much of a difference, but he was like, no, you don't understand it. It's like 1,000 times faster to render. And blah, blah, blah. So I ended up like re-editing the thing after that, but he was right. I was wrong about it, and because of that we started talking and we built up a good relationship. And
I told him this SIGGRAPH that he has, like if Fume would have
he texted
2.5D
me,
approach.
I'm in the US and I'm like, I'm not here.
That's the 2 things Fume needs is Octane shader and to obey frame rates, because I just worked with Pete Draper. He runs Makuta VFX now, and I helped out on doing elements for 3 shots on their new movie Iga, which is an evil fly, and it becomes this it's an evil spirit in the form of a fly, and it's on fire, but it's like 1,000 FPS shot. Wow. And in Fume you can't just retime from full speed because you need all the detail, like from timescale 4 to timescale 0.005. It just doesn't work. So if you're ending up doing a 1,000 FPS shot, there's not much you can do. And especially if it's emitting off the geometry, you can't just retime because then it doesn't line up anymore.
Yeah, you actually can. It's just you really gotta get ghetto with your math to get it. Like I've been in a situation where it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to retime the animation, retime this, and it's gotta be precise, like fucking precise. But you can do it.
Yeah, but at 1,000 FPS,
it's a fucking gamble. And the thing is, to get to that point of retiming, if it's a complex sim, you're going to go through multiple steps of like doing your sim, your sim, your wave. If you're doing a wavelet and post processing, then you get to that stage, and like A, you got to make sure it lines up. B, you got to make sure that it's actually going to retime properly, or it's just if it's going to turn to jelly.
Yeah, it's just that the detail just didn't hold up. If you can't sim like timescale 4 and then
what's your opinion of doing shit with like piping through Krakatoa? Like, what's your opinion of that? Again, you're still gonna run through your alignment issue of like making sure everything matches up, but do you find retiming with Krakatoa to be more stable than
but then again, if you have to retime it to 1,000 of what it was before, in that case, like 500 times slower, there's stepping. Like there's just, it can't interpolate that much.
So what's your workaround? Just sim at a ridiculously long frame.
They had to go with a faster simulation. Like 1,000 FPS, it didn't look quite like a flame at 1,000 FPS. It's barely doing anything. And just look-wise.
So were you doing like a speed ramp in comp later on, like doing?
They did part of that, and they used actual elements of slow motion fire. But in the end, it just was like more like a whatever 300 FPS thing. So, but there's my point. If Fume would obey FPS, just you change the FPS and max, and Fume obeys that, you could actually just have a long ass simulation. And animation is you get a slower animation.
And that's how RealFlow works.
Yeah, and then you just render in 24 and you're home. If it just would obey whatever FPS you throw at it, fine. But internally, it's always 24. So whatever.
That's one issue I kind of had with Max is that because a lot of people talk about like, oh, what unit scale do you use and blah blah blah, and like I'll always use generic units because having values like 25 centimeters for my turbulence strength doesn't make any sense. Like a lot of what you're doing isn't applicable. Like it's just that isn't a measuring system. It's just different. You know,
you use it because it look good.
Well, it's just most of it isn't applicable, and like a lot of these things like it's not really gonna matter at the end of the day. Like shit like timescale of 1, it's like okay, well, like it's the relativeness of it all. Even like particle flow, your force influence is 1000%, which again is just like a little bit wonky. Just
to look the same as the legacy forces.
Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies, but again, like Maya has the same problems. It's just they're not as advertised, but yeah, if people actually really looked at it a bit like, okay, well, let's take a step back and reinvent the wheel a little bit. There's a lot of things like that like having FPS would actually make a lot more sense.
Then you can approach the shot like a real world problem. Everything else is like you hack it together somehow because it's not how you would film. And yeah, FPS would be amazing. Obtain here in FPS and Fume, yes.
Absolutely.
It would make a lot of lives easier, I think.
Yeah.
People these days, is there any action movie that doesn't have crazy time ramps? And then they don't want it just in calm because it looks silly. They actually
you want to do it physically. You want to do it in a proper physical 3D environment. You want to do because you also need to make sure everything lines up, and that's the issue you're running into is that if you do have a crazy speed ramp where things are running quick and then they jump into slow motion. Are you going to just do everything in slow motion? Because a lot of places will do that, and then the speed ramp it later. But then you get to effects.
So much.
We get to effects, and then people, the effects person's like, "What the fuck? You didn't speak to me about this." And same thing with pre-roll, other shit like that. It's like if there's no communication there, then if people do that, then it causes issues. Same time, if you do everything with the speed ramp physically in there, then suddenly you have to pseudo hack it. Like, okay, well, I have to get my effects to do the same thing, but halfway through, slow down or speed up, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to careful planning and communication, just to make sure that the approach you do is consistent and you can follow that with everything you're doing. Sometimes it is just do it all real time and then do the speed ramp later in 2D or there's so many different approaches, but you need to communicate that and have a consistent approach all the way through. Otherwise, if you just do everything, I've had that. Where it's like a 3,000 frame shot, and they figure, well, we'll just render every 10th frame or whatever to do it. It's like, well, no, I've got a sim.
Yeah, you got to sim every frame in order to know.
And like flight, actually, I can't talk about that yet, but there's there's lots of issues you run into with large frame numbers. Like when you suddenly have like if working at Blur, you would work on like game cinematics where it'd be a first-person thing, you'd be running around, so technically it's one shot for 4 or 5 minutes, but that's fine because every time the camera pans, that's a new shot.
Yeah.
You can cut it up, but if it's a fixed shot, then you're screwed because suddenly your sims, if you have smoke billowing in the background, it's going to stay there the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
And that's going to cause issues. So you've got to plan ahead a lot of the time. And being able to retime, that's a great feature for Fume, but again, like it can be unpredictable, and I get guys like hit me up all the time like, my sims are jumping around, and it's like, well, you got to be pretty careful, when you're retiming shit. So
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the internal retiming. It's just because you have to be very in sync with the animators.
I've actually found that retiming stuff and then changing the scale later, we found issues because I did the new Dracula 3D movies came out. I don't even know where or anything about it, but I worked on it, and. But it's like a sequence or a shot of like a stationary train with like smoke billowing past. I did like a really big, very detailed smoke billowing, steam, all shit blowing past camera. and we ended up retiming that down to like 1,000 frame sims, and it retimed fine. I had the caches, it all looked great, but then I did it at a certain scale, and then the VFX Super wanted to scale it up to put into the rest of the shots, and retiming the scale seemed to screw the playback up. Whereas he was using V-Ray physical cameras, so scaling the scene down would screw the depth of field and everything else up.
Yeah.
So it ended up becoming this like big nightmare where, just the back and forth of that. And it's just like some funny vector issues you run into. But anyway, I guess we'll wrap this up in a minute, but like, I don't know, like, jumping to Blur for a minute, like, working with a lot of talented people, stuff like that, obviously is pretty inspiring. Like, do you like the pipeline? Like, what are the tools like?
Yeah, the things that they, like, at Blur, they let you do whatever you want to use, as long as it works.
Yeah, and then
they're super laissez-faire.
You're comping your own stuff, and at the end of the day, as long as it works, so they don't give a fuck, But, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, that's like, there's no, like, you have to do it in 3D particles versus Rayfire, or in PFlow versus what the fuck ever. Whatever, go to town. If it works, it works. Whatever you want to use, do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great, because you can apply your whole range of what you actually know. If you're limited to, like, let's say I know Fume better, but I'm forced to use Afterburn, where at Blur, like, just whatever gets the job done. Because you gotta do it fast, do what you actually know. There's not much trying.
Yeah.
There's doing.
Yeah.
I love their pipeline tools, like the offline Blur tools. Man, I couldn't live without it anymore. Like the Onion and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing is they haven't come out for 2013 yet, which is the max build I'm using, because it's particles are up to a third faster now, TP and PFlow. Just because of how they optimize the viewport and how much particles it can handle in the viewport, it's awesome. It's fun again.
That's cool.
Because I didn't jump ship since Max 2010, so using that.
Right.
And so now I jumped to 2013, moved everything over, but Blur tools aren't recompiled yet. So waiting for that. But nevertheless, great set of tools.
What about some of their internal stuff they're doing with all the assets, like particle effects assets?
That too. Their library of just if you need fume, billowy smoke, or muzzle flashes, or I mean, at that point in Blur, there's not a single simulation effect like mortar impacts or stuff like that hasn't been done at least a dozen times.
The amount of times I get asked to do mortar impacts, I just finally down south, like, first day I got asked to do a mortar impact. I'm like, okay, this is enough. So I wrote a tool. And it's just like literally like a one button. Like you got the values, but you hit a button, it's your mortar impact. It's just like earlier this year, I was like hired to do mortar impacts like in other places, everywhere you go. And actually, my first job ever at Blur, which actually became the effects test there, but like
the Saving Private Ryan shot.
Yeah, that was.
They don't do those anymore, but yeah.
That was the first thing I ever did when I went in there. Was that I sat down for Warhammer Dawn of War, and they were like, "Show me the Saving Private Ryan footage. Like, we want this," and I did it, and that was like the first. It was like a mortar impact, and after that, it just became like the standardized test. For, like, you're applying for a job there, you do that thing. I remember like Carlos and Gano, as other people like who apply, they have to recreate it. And I was just like, oh yeah, like that was from like when we were trying to build Warhammer. You're doing these mortar blasts, so it became the standard effects test when you apply for a job there, which was kind of funny. But yeah, it's like, fuck it, here's a button, bam.
Yeah.
It's like, how long did that take you? Oh, 3 minutes. But yeah, I mean, like, you streamline everything, and Blur at one point was very much like that, to the point where modeling, you would literally have like a library of hands and body parts and just stitch together characters, and it's all about streamlining and how quick you can get shit out the door.
Which is just, to some extent, you just have to do it. You have 6 to 8 weeks for a whole cinematic.
And if you're doing the same stuff, like gunfire, explosions...
Plus, like, muzzle flashes are like a frame long. Like, it's...
Yeah.
How many do you need in your library? It's like 2 setups. One for wide, and one for AK-47s, and one for, like, big-ass Gatling guns.
Yeah, it's true. No, it's cool. It's really cool. And yeah, I mean, I like that place, and they do amazing work. And
their library's huge for stuff.
I was talking to Brandon Young, and he mentioned that you're coming to Blur, and then a few days later, I was going to the bar, and I saw you on the street. I'm like, that's Anselm. And I'm like, oh, and I realized where you were. I'm like, they put him at that hotel.
Yeah, the Jolly.
Yeah, the Jolly Roger. Yeah.
It is a jolly place, that's for sure.
At least there's a good bar across the street. So I forget what it's called now. It used to be called the Beachfront, but now it's some other name. Oh yeah, I forget. But that's cool. And I guess like one thing again, I've just kind of like been asking a few people now is just because I'm kind of intrigued as what people have to say about if you want to kind of get in this industry. I mean, you came from emailing and harassing people to get your first gig, and then you kicked ass and did all this amazing stuff.
Yeah, the thing is that all the people that worked there, nobody had a reel really. They were like kind of lazy, when you're at one place and you want to retire there.
I haven't cut a reel in 7 years until recently.
But then when I would come on, like this year or last year, I haven't done any. I think 2011, beginning of 2011 was my last.
Yeah.
But yeah, there I was like, when I was still in Germany, I was updating my reel twice a year with new projects, just constantly the new shit. Because that's what people want to see on YouTube.
Do like
what you have on your reel.
Do like a spring reel, a winter reel, whatever. Just keep.
Yeah, that's what I had back then, and just nobody wants to see the shit from 2006 anymore in 2012. And when I was starting out, you collect your good stuff for your reel, so I always got cooler stuff.
Yeah.
And I was updating my reel twice a year, and just that got me gigs. And people would ask me, how do you got this gig? And I was like, I had a reel. How's your reel? Like, oh yeah, I haven't done one yet. Yeah, well, surprise. That was before IMDb, or maybe IMDb was around, but I wasn't in film yet, so there was no entry for me to put down.
Yeah.
Then in that case, it's a reel. If you do commercials, it's your reel.
It always comes down to your reel, and it's a good idea actually. It's really a good idea because if you're consistently launching new shit, and again, it's a good excuse to put it out there. I mean, if you made something new and you put it out, people are going to look at it. But if you have the one reel, you're not going to every 3 months be like, everyone, I put my reel up again. It's like if you have new shit.
I learned editing through doing the reel twice a year. And then like other people I worked on the same shows, like all the German freelancers, you were all at Pixomondo at one point in time, But if you learn editing a bit and like choose good music, like there's doing a reel and doing a reel. Like there's the CG Talk front page reel and the others, and it might be people from the same class at Vancouver Film School. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just doing it a lot. Like cut a reel. If you have one more project, recut the whole reel. Just edit it cooler, get it more dynamic. Make it. Because you gotta sell it in the first 20 seconds.
That's a good point too about like colleges and tutorials, stuff like that. Because for instance, I remember like if I went and gave a talk at like a university or something, you show everyone and they all go and replicate what you do, and then you realize, okay, now like I just taught how to do a volcano, and there's 30 people in this room are going to put up a volcano, and I'd rather someone like go and learn to do it and then reapply it to something new. And that's what I love is when I actually see people do that, because otherwise everyone's going to have the same shot on their reels, like a bunch of tutorials. Instead of going, okay, well, I want to go and shoot a volcano, my own one, and do these effects, make it my own finished shot.
And camera tracking.
Yeah, this will look like my own shot. You take that knowledge and you apply it again. It also means you're going to run into your own problems, opposed to being this perfectly controlled environment where it's like, now set your value to 0.37. So, instead it's like, okay, now I did everything you said, but because this is my shot, it's completely different. This is happening. I got to figure that out,
This is your comfort zone here, and that's where the magic happens.
That's exactly it. So I mean, I like that. I like to be able to see people take a concept and make it their own instead of it being like, all right, and you were still in like a music video or something, and you see that tutorial in there. It's just like, man, come on, like the exact same settings, the exact same everything. It's just, you may as well just download the fucking file and just put it on your shot, and people do that too.
Yeah.
So, but it's the same thing with stock footage too. You see, like, especially before Heartbeats became big, all the stock footage you would buy is called Pyromania. It was like this old school TGA sequence, and you could literally name, like, that'd be 220. FLV or whatever, you could name the exact ones, and then Heartbeats came out, and Max 3 came out with this Explorer CD with it, and they had Hercules.mov along with the mat for it, and this was like this explosion that Heartbeats let them ship with, and suddenly everyone was using the exact same explosion because there was one that was free. And it was just ridiculous. It's like you could see it everywhere you went. It's kind of like the dancing baby of stock footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what can you do? That's really awesome. I mean, it was a pleasure. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. You hungry?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for listening. And for more information on this interview as well as on Ansi, visit allanmckay.com/Ansi, ANSI. And also make sure to check out my website, allanmckay.com, for a lot of free training. I've got a ridiculous amount of videos up there on career development all the way through to hands-on visual effects and pipeline tutorials, scripting, you name it, for Max, Maya, Houdini, and everything else in between. Be sure to sign up to get updates on future episodes as they come in. I typically am going to be putting these out every week, so check it out, allanmckay.com. Finally, for all of you who are interested in learning more about working from home or working remotely, this is something I'm going to be covering in a later episode, very in depth. So I'll be covering how to both work from remote countries as well as specifically how to approach agencies, feature film studios, do a lot of visual effects, and how to approach clients, even for TV commercials and video games as well, and learn to bid on projects, how to position yourself to be able to get that sort of work and to work in those conditions. So that way you can work worldwide from wherever you want, even from the comfort of your own home or from the beach in Thailand with a laptop. And I've done all of those. So this will be something really cool to cover, and I'll be going through a lot of this step by step. So keep an eye out for future episodes. Awesome. So that's it. I will see you next time.